Peace, Father Divine, peace, Mother Divine, peace to the universal family of God. Today we're going to look at 7 more letters from Father Divine, the divine source of all democracy, on American democracy. All the letters in this batch were written in the 1940s during our national war against fascism. They have been selected for our reflection and edification on this July the 4th weekend. Father Divine, writing to Mrs. Cecilia W. Cooper, representing the New York Association for the Blind, New York, New York, September the 10th, 1943, ADFD. My dear Mrs. Cooper, I have your letter of the 8th in appreciation of the contributions made by 2 more of my followers to your association. It is good to know that God is directing the lives of millions seeking His guidance, and that in this spirit they are finding assurance, peace, and happiness. Humanity in these turbulent days must look to something greater, bigger, and better than the finite laws and systems of men to lead them out. They must look to something outside themselves as persons, yet to that inner source of life that promotes peace, tranquility, and unity. Millions have gained their emancipation by living in the conscious recognition of God's ever-presence. By putting God first in their daily lives, they produce desirable conditions of health, happiness, and prosperity. They automatically produce the qualities of true Americanism in their affairs and exhibit democracy as it should be lived and portrayed to the world. By this sample and example, the masses can see what it means to be directed by a higher law and spirit of life than that which tradition has produced among them. Our freedom lies in getting out of the rut of human preconceptions by laying aside the weight of mortal limitations, refusing to indulge in race hate and prejudice, in division and strife, in partisanism, denominationalism, and in graft and greed, for these are the evils that rob men of their liberties. Freedom of thought and action has made America great, but freedom of thought and action misdirected has brought a great challenge against it. A man in ignorance may think it is his free right to stand up for some racial group or partisan party, but the spirit of real democratic freedom will cause a man to seek his free right to stand up for the unity of all races and the coalition of political parties. As we represent one government, we will rightly use our freedom to develop it and advance it as democracy has outlined it in the great documents of our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. If we as individuals fight for some special race or creed or color, we are doing just what Mr. Hitler is doing in a measure. We bring bondage and division and desolation by such a principle, not freedom. It is for this cause that I am producing the spiritual virtues of life that men might gain their freedom from the evils that rob and destroy them. Democracy is far-reaching. It is not bound and limited by racialism, by partisanism, or any other ism like Hitlerism. What says it as a parable to the mystery? For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? Democracy includes all. Hence, let us strive for perfection, for in it lies the real nature of freedom which we seek, not merely as individuals, but as a nation, socially, economically, and politically. This is the new birth of freedom under God, which I am establishing by my spiritual endeavors among the people. The word was not spoken in vain which declared, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Thus I would that all men might become to be as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy, in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Divine, better known as Father Divine. Father Divine, writing to Mrs. Cornelia Poe of Cheraw, South Carolina, on October the 6th, 1944 ADFD. My dear Mrs. Poe, I am glad to receive your letter of the 2nd and to know the act of honesty by Mr. Ernest Taylor. The honest actions of my followers are telling in deeds and expressions that they are friends and neighbors of men. They are showing that they have no line of demarcation between them. They are proving the law of brotherhood and the value of living, democratic and real. This is my way of presenting righteous government to the leaders of the people. They would not hear me if I talked it, but they cannot escape it because they see it in action on every hand. Yet I am not against any man. I am against corrupt politics, biased religion, and the discrimination of any individual. Truly is it given, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. My works of unification declare my politics of true Americanism. From no angle do I infringe on the rights of another. My followers enact the Bill of Rights in every community, and the enactment of the Bill of Rights means that they establish racial unity in their homes, in their schools, and in their business and social lives. Every man, matters not what he may look like, is brought on one common level with every other man. This exemplifies the nation, indivisible, for which we stand. It outpictures what shall be in the forthcoming years, for the ball of democracy is rolling. Its speed is increasing. It is going into business, profession, labor, and trade. For the Spirit has gone ahead, making straight the way, and none shall hinder me. I speak a new language to the children of men as I speak in honesty and truth. I establish new works among them as I work righteousness in the land. My stand is radical and my ways fanatical, but I am producing the results, causing the spirit of Americanism to enter into every land and country and to unify the people, even as I have unified millions already from every land. This is the truth humanity has been looking for, and they shall all know it from the least to the greatest, that they may become to be as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. Father Devine, writing to Mr. J. A. Woodson, Chief, Division of Bookkeeping and Warrants, Treasury Department, Washington, D.C., 30th of June, 1944, ADFD. My dear Mr. Woodson, your letter of the 15th is at hand acknowledging the contribution of $735.25 in money orders, bonds, and currency from some of my followers. Such donations reflect the deeds and actions which the forefathers of our great nation desired to see Americanism produce universally. Much has been said recently by various politicians over the radio concerning Abraham Lincoln and holding him up as an endorsement to what they are doing. But where is the man, or where are the men who are doing what Abraham Lincoln has done? Abraham Lincoln's spirit is not confined to any party especially, neither to any individual, but the person or persons who will do what Abraham Lincoln endeavored to do, they are the one or ones in whom Abraham Lincoln lives today. Hence it is useless for anyone to call Lincoln back from the dead, so to speak, to endorse them, unless their deeds and actions, thoughts, ideas, and opinions express the true spirit of democracy which motivated the chief executive during the Civil War when he requested that this nation under God might have a new birth of freedom, that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, might not perish from the earth. He knew the perfect freedom, the freedom from graft and greed, from jealousy, division, prejudice, and strife, from slander, and from such characteristics as cause men to seek public office for mercenary gain without taking into consideration the good of the people. Such freedom could only come, and can only come, through and by the Spirit and mind of God. It was said of Abraham Lincoln that he knew the Bible by heart. Whether he actually did or not, he had the spirit of true Christianity, upon which this nation is founded, within him. This is the spirit we as a nation seek to guide us, for in God we trust. We are not interested in the fine appearance politicians may make. As so many of our radio commentators have stressed, such and such a one makes a fine platform appearance, or words to that effect. History records that Abraham Lincoln was awkward and ungainly, but he had true Americanism embedded in his heart. Then, I say, those who seek to call Abraham Lincoln up from the dead must call him by his nature and characteristics, by his spirit and mind, and reproduce the same nature, the same characteristics, and the same spirit and mind, and open the way whereby this nation can have a new birth of freedom under God, even as I have done jurisdictionally. Truly did the song declare, John Brown's body lies a mouldering in the clay, but his spirit goes marching on. The spirits of Lincoln, of Jefferson, and of all the statesmen who have struggled to make on this continent one nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, those same spirits, or that same spirit, is marching through the land today. But wheresoever it is reincarnated, you will find the deeds and actions of true Americanism that always have and always will accompany the spirit of real democracy, which is Christianity in action. The Bill of Rights in this day is the scale of justice by which every man is being weighed. We need not hear a spoken word from any politician, for we have only to look in his or her home, around the person's breakfast and dinner table, and at his or her fireside, to see if he or she means to put into action, legally, the principles of true Americanism, the virtues of the Constitution and its amendments, and the spirit of the Declaration of Independence, without which civilization cannot stand. It is not youth, it is not age that will bring about peace on earth, but it is the spirit of real Americanism enacted within the hearts and lives of this people, and those who call themselves the leaders, and those who claim to be representatives of the people, must firstly produce that which they desire mankind to reproduce, for it is by their deeds and actions we know them. Hence I stand as I have stood, lifting up a standard for this people, that righteousness may cover the earth with peace, and all mankind shall have the opportunity of becoming to be even as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Divine. This next letter has a line that may be alienating to some. On the surface, it is alienating to me. But listen and or read Father's words very closely and put them in the context of the kind of character and world he is calling for. Father Divine's notion of a Christian nation is about real equality between races and creeds, not a theocratic tyranny. It is about government by virtue from within, not by preachers. Father Divine has created a clergyless movement and has promised a future in which clergy are irrelevant and no more because of the awakened universal priesthood of all believers that is part of this dispensation. He's talking about socially virtuous citizens and moving toward a mature, direct democracy. When he talks about Christianity in law, he's talking about equality and justice in law. He's talking about laws against lying, cheating, graft, greed, speculation, laws against sexual harassment, laws against racial exclusion, laws against nepotism, all the things that corrupt government. That's what he's talking about when he talks about translating Christianity into law. He's not talking about legislating creeds or putting preachers in charge, because he's talking about a world without preachers and without a need for preachers. We can also see that all of these letters, except the one to Miss Sincere Love in this batch, are to non-followers. Father, writing to them, is calling them to their highest ideals. He is reminding them of universal humanity and of the importance of democracy to our unfoldment and security and prosperity as a nation. Furthermore, Father has said that what happened with the Declaration of Independence at Philadelphia was an epochal moment in the history of humanity, comparable to Pentecost, comparable to Sinai, by implication comparable to the revelation of the Quran, not because the men there were perfect, far from it, but because there was an opportunity in history for God to influence things that would unfold over time toward the kind of world that God intends and will have. Father teaches that in this dispensation, the structures of a living democracy, which will become a direct democracy and a global democracy, that these structures will replace the old religious structures. Speaking of the cooperative garages, the gas stations of the peace mission movement in this vein, Father said they are more sacred than the churches. Social democracy is where the Spirit of God is in this age, and it shall be actualized and universalized in spite of the interference and machinations of men. When God gets in history, he is turning this horse counter to human nature in the direction of where we came, and as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. If you look at other material on the channel about Father's ideas about democracy, about cooperativism, about universalism beyond traditional Jewish and Christian bounds, then you will see that what he is talking about is not only different from what racist Christian nationalists are preaching in their false religion, but is in fact diametrically opposed to everything they stand for. He's talking about real democracy and real Christianity, and the fact that in brotherhood, sisterhood, fraternity, unity, whatever the word is for that, in that co-equal, family-like approach to who we are and what our civilization should mean, there is the actual universal Christ manifesting the kingdom on earth. Father Divine, writing to Mr. Arthur C. Logan, attorney, of Wilmington, Delaware, 13th of February, 1943, ADFD. My dear Mr. Logan, I received your letter of the 10th in acknowledgement of the reparation made by one of my followers for a wrong perpetrated 15 or 16 years ago. I appreciate your response concerning it. In citing the honesty of Miss Blessed Pure in Heart Smiles and mentioning the fact that it is regrettable that she was not one of my followers in 1928 and 29, in consideration of the widespread horror of vice and crime in the world today, is it not regrettable that people everywhere are not following me? When men follow me, they follow my spirit and teaching of Christian righteousness. I do not impose myself or my teaching on the children of men, for I believe where coercion begins, the work of God that moment ends. It is no longer the work of God, but the works of men. Nevertheless, is it not better that Christianity become compulsory law in government, where the perfect standard of the Christ is exhibited in law and order, than the inhuman, savage, and brutal order of the Nazi rule in the world? Where the spirit of righteousness does not fill the hearts of men, evil prevails. It is for this cause that I am a spiritual influence in the lives of all mankind. Millions have volitionally cast off the garment of sin and unrighteousness, and have imbibed my spirit and my mind, and it is by virtue of this fact that you find honesty, competence, and truth exemplified in their daily lives and activities. The honest dealing of Miss Smiles in the experience mentioned above is democracy in action. Think of millions exhibiting the same. Think of how it would be if men, women, and children everywhere would live for the good of others instead of for their own selfish interests. The infringement of one another upon the other's rights is un-American. The prohibiting of men of any race, creed, and color from enjoying their constitutional privileges is undemocratic. We see the full force of it at work through the Hitler regime. Let us not continue to divide and spoil the civil liberties of any people, but let democracy, in the name of brotherhood, govern our lives. Let democracy, in the name of brotherhood, govern our lives. It may not be that you know very much about my actual work and mission among men. The good is always misrepresented by the press. Nevertheless, millions following this principle of Christian democracy must enact the law of truth and justice in your midst. The cooperative enterprises of the followers exemplify the perfect working principles of economic democracy. Even the private lives of those following this teaching of truth and justice fulfill the Bill of Rights, for there is no division among them. I often repeat that I am a rebuttal to Hitlerism, for I build up stone upon stone the great kingdom of Christ, which we politically call democracy. The acts of equity and square dealing of millions are the stepping stones of righteous government. So it is wonderful to see how my spirit causes men to do right, and in doing right they move contrary to the crime of Hitlerism and to his degenerate order of totalitarianism in the world. Hence, as men get the Spirit of Christ in their hearts, justice will be executed in every field of activity. Our great institutions of government will ring with the spirit of equality, freedom, and justice, and democracy will reign in all government, even as it rules in the hearts and lives of millions today, and in the exemplification of my life in your midst, wherein this leaves me as I would all might be, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy, in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Devine, better known as Father Devine. Father Devine, writing to Mr. Frank Jensen of the Texas and Pacific Railroad Company, Dallas, Texas, 8th of June, 1943, ADFD. My dear Mr. Jensen, I have your letter of the 4th to Mr. George W. Cooper acknowledging appreciation for the $50 he paid to the Texas and Pacific Railway Company for an indebtedness of 23 years standing. The foundation of honesty upon which I have lifted millions is both the spiritual law of Christ and the present constitution of our great nation. The two are synonymous. As you live one, you spontaneously live the other. It is for this cause that I preach Americanism as much as I do the doctrine of Jesus Christ, yet project the law from a spiritual angle, for by the spirit of the law will men get the understanding of it and automatically produce it in their daily lives and affairs. How else can men gain the victory over un-Americanism and the alien powers within this nation than by the enforcement of the spiritual virtues of equality, justice, and truth? By advancing Americanism through evangelism, the victory is won. Ask your statesman, ask your preacher and educator, and they will confirm it if they carry the spirit of honesty, competence, and truth within them. By destroying the seeds of graft, greed, division, and aggression in the hearts of men, I bring about an evangelical system of things that automatically produces right conditions in the city, state, and nation. The lives of millions have been changed by the eradication of those evil tendencies within them. As I say, as with an individual, so with a nation, and as with a nation, so with all nations combined. The masses have been skeptical about the operation of spiritual things, for religion has failed humanity, in that they had a misconception concerning it. But religion as I teach and produce it has been made practical in your midst. By this I am daily educating the masses to this true and living way. I am causing them to become familiar with honesty, competence, and truth. Men have been strangers to these characteristics because they have been reproducers of dishonesty, graft, greed, and selfishness. Nevertheless, righteousness is marching onward, and as I have caused millions to exhibit their true citizenry at home and abroad, I shall perfect the law in the hearts of men until all governments shall wave the flag of freedom. Thus shall men enjoy the privilege of being as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy, in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am the Reverend M.J. Divine, better known as Father Divine. Father Divine, writing to Miss Sincere Love of New York, New York, June 17, 1943, ADFD. My dear Miss Love, I am somewhat delayed in replying to your letter of the 27th ultimo, but I am pleased to know that my spirit has created an equitable adjustment whereby the enactment of the Bill of Rights between Popeil and Sons and yourself and your receipt of the proper salary is in accordance with our program of righteous government. If we represent a democracy, then we must enforce our principle of democratic justice and freedom in our homes, in our business, and in our social affairs. When we willfully ignore the standard of life which we recognize and acclaim and demand for our rights and privileges, we become failures and automatically lose the freedom we seek. The people know that I have the key to life, liberty, and happiness. They know I am right. Therefore, if they harmonize with me in fulfilling the law to the letter, no compromise, they will find the success and freedom they seek. As you express my nature, characteristics, and disposition in your work and affairs, and produce the consecration of a real, true rosebud, my spirit will be with you to bless and keep you, that you may be as this leaves me, as I am well, healthy, joyful, peaceful, lively, loving, successful, prosperous, and happy, in spirit, body, and mind, and in every organ, muscle, sinew, joint, limb, vein, and bone, and even in every atom, fiber, and cell of my bodily form. Respectfully and sincere, I am Reverend M.J. Divine, better known as Father Divine. This holiday weekend may also be a good time to reflect on Father's distinctions between the Declaration of Independence, which he did say was inspired by the Spirit of God in every word, and the Constitution, which he said was inspired in general principle. This means that the principles of freedom from tyranny and the response to tyranny that are embodied in the Declaration are absolute and eternal. The Constitution, however, begins as a flawed document within which, by inspiration, are the means of change. There is nothing about the Constitution that cannot be changed and altered through the agency of the people seizing control of their democracy. In fact, they can make it a true and complete, real democracy through the Constitution itself, if they will employ the means, develop the unity, and maintain the resolve. We have a tool for principled, stable, social change if we preserve our Constitution. Peace out. We thank you, Father and Mother Divine.